My name is Joseph Buckley, president of John Reed and Associates, and in this brief video presentation, I would like to discuss what questions should be asked to determine the voluntariness and validity of a subject's confession. And of course, the investigator should also anticipate being asked these questions and be prepared to effectively and honestly answer them. So with respect to the recording itself, was the entire contact with the subject recorded, both the interview and the interrogation? Was there any time that the discussion with the subject was not recorded, and if so, what was the reason for that? With respect to the subject's rights, was the subject in custody or were they free to leave at any time? If the subject was in custody, were they properly advised of their rights? Did the subject demonstrate a knowing and intelligent waiver of those rights? Did the subject exercise any of their rights in an unequivocal manner at any time during the process? And if they did, was that invocation properly honored? If the subject is a juvenile, were the rights properly explained to that individual? Were any of the subject's rights denied during the interrogation process? And if the subject was a juvenile, does the law require that a parent or guardian be present during the interrogation? And if it does, were they properly contacted? As to the individual subject's attributes, does the subject have or exhibit any mental or psychological factors that would affect their ability to make a voluntary and true statement? Is there any language issue that may preclude the subject's understanding of the process, the questions, or the overall situation? Does the subject have any prior experience with law enforcement? Does the subject have the cognitive ability to make a knowing and intelligent waiver? Was the subject under the influence of drugs or alcohol during the interrogation? Was the subject suffering from any physical injury during the interrogation? And as for the length of the interrogation, how long did the interview last? And how long did the interrogation last? Did the interrogation take place during the subject's normal waking hours? And did the interrogation exceed a reasonable length of time based on the statements that were being made by the subject and the status of the investigation? As for the interrogation process itself, did the subject have access to the door? Was it unlocked? Did the investigators act in any kind of a coercive manner by making any kind of threats of harm or inevitable consequences? Did they make any promises of leniency? Did the investigators reveal details of the crime to the subject? Did they show the subject pictures of the crime scene? Did the investigators engage in any coercive tactics? Did the investigators deny the subject any invocation of their rights? Did the investigators deny the subject the opportunity to use the washroom or to get something to eat or drink, or if the subject was there over an extended period of time, did they have the opportunity to sleep? And as to the confession itself, did the subject provide details that were consistent with the crime evidence? Did the subject provide details that had been withheld by the police so that only the guilty person would have that information? Did the subject provide details that the police didn't even know, such as the location of the murder weapon or perhaps the bloody clothes? Did the subject write the written document? If not, did he read it or just sign it? Did the subject provide the content of the written statement, or was it written for him? In addition to these questions to consider in assessing the voluntariness and validity of a confession, there are a couple of other presentations on this YouTube channel that would be beneficial to review, specifically the core principles of the Reed technique and best practices. And you can always refer to our book, Criminal Interrogation and Confessions. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes to view this video presentation.